I'm going to talk to you about desire and the ways that our pain and suffering is often just misunderstood desire, and the ways that our anger, resentment, grief are often just unexpressed life force. Now, life and desire go hand in hand. To have life, one has desire. Desire is the process of coming into form and dissolving from form. It is the life cycle. It is a process of emergence and completion. It is a process of change, of movement, and of cycling over. The seasons, natural cycles, sunrise, sunset, trees growing, all of these things are representations of the purest form of desire, which is life's desire to have and be experience. So you, as something alive, are always going to have desire. The aspect of you which is alive is always going to have desire. And when we're suffering, it's not because desire is the cause of suffering. This is something that many people take from Buddhist teachings and maybe misunderstand. Desire is not the cause of suffering. Fixation on a particular desire, which is unable to complete itself, turn over, and dissolve, is suffering. Because desire naturally moves. Desire is a cyclical process. And when you fixate on that process rather than allowing the process to be, allowing life to be, that is when you suffer, because you identify, you fixate on something which is going to both be born and die. Everything within experience, everything within experience has a life cycle, a birth and death. Fundamentally, what you are is birthless and deathless, because you are the space in which desire is actualized and completed. You are the space in which life unfolds itself. None of this would be possible without the witness space, the void, the emptiness in which forms are defined. Things happen, events occur, time and space become meaningful, limitations are experienced, and therefore the turning over and the changing of limitations. So desire is the process of turning over and of completion. And to be free of desire does not mean to interfere with the life process. It simply means to detach from needing to control that life process. Otherwise, to be free of desire, you would have to kill yourself. You would have to not be alive. If you need to not be alive in order to be free of desire, then you're not free of desire because you had to kill yourself to get away from it. So to be free of desire means to allow. And in allowing, in abiding, in equanimity, desire does what it does and there's no fixation. Connected to all experience as it unfolds and shifts, fixated and attached to no particular state within that experience. That is the true nature. So, we can grow our desires. And when we grow our desires, what we're doing is we're taking the tension nature of desire, which is a certain longing, and we're expanding in the space of that longing. So as the tension stretches us linearly towards a particular thing, a sense of wanting and not having, a certain sense of positive and negative, or a charge, in that linearity and in that focus and direction of intent, in that tension, we can expand. And we can express that longing, we can express that desire and that tension in different ways. And the ways we do that are fascinating and many, okay? But at the root of it, what we're trying to do is clarify what it is that that string of tension is pulling us towards. If we're feeling a sense of tension or contraction or resistance or stuckness or depletion or dissociation or fight, flight, freeze, what's happening is there isn't a clarity on how to actualize the thing we desire. So either we're not sure what we desire, or we're not confident that we'll be able to actualize that desire. Desire isn't the problem. The lack of clarity and competency is the problem. In order to pursue a desire, we have to A, know what it is that we desire, B, be able to notice whether or not we're getting closer to that desire, and C, have the energy and equipment to actually take steps. So this noticing, clarifying, and pursuing is something that gives a human being, our form of life, a tremendous biological reward, a tremendous sense of purpose, which is beyond the intellect. And while that's occurring, there are these layers of conditioning and layers of forcing and fixation, which we often get stuck in or think that we're stuck in, which obscure that process. The desiring process is still happening, but we get stuck in trying to negate the unfolding of that process. And in the process, we negate our own aliveness. And this is partly what trauma does. And the degree of suffering caused by that self-negation, that life negation, and the inability to crystallize and make art from our desires is the degree of trauma we're experiencing. So your job is not to remove desire, it is to remove the obstacles to the most beautiful, life-giving, effortless expression of desire. Your job is not to remove the thing that's alive within you, creating these energetic disturbances beneath the crust of your conditioning, poking through, hatching like a life egg from this stuck delusion. Your purpose is to open it up, let it go, break the crust, dissolve, heat up, get a critical density of aliveness and energy and longing, and then to expand your consciousness into that density of longing, so that it pulses open and breaks through delusion and breaks through fear and becomes more powerful than anything else. That's what life does. It breaks through, it hatches, okay? And it's always hatching. So your job is to remove the obstacles simply by recognizing what they are. Now, the thing about obstacles in reference to desire and life and self-actualization is there are no obstacles other than the ones we think we have, act as if we have, and somatically experience. So any experience we have in our body doesn't inherently have to be an obstacle to the meeting of a desire. This goes deep, and this can be funny to deal with initially, right? So what happens is we think that because we're feeling a particular feeling, that means we can't also express ourselves and be alive and desiring and turn over and change and evolve in our life. So we think we need to get rid of this feeling in order to then be able to move and let life ripple through us. That is the delusion, the need to get rid of this before you can experience what's already happening. It doesn't make sense, right? So in that way, There are no obstacles other than your delusions. There are no actual obstacles other than your investment, an unconscious investment in the belief that you can be stopped. Life turns over. Life turns over. And the only thing that you're going to do by believing that it doesn't, by believing that you're stuck, by believing that your desires can't be pursued and received, is you're going to begin to negate your version of life and your blueprint of life and your own body and your being within it. You're going to begin to negate, suppress, repress, distort, stifle what is moving through you. And that will have consequences for you, physically, emotionally, relationally, creatively. That reactivity, that need to push or pull or change what wants to emerge through you, is the very thing that will harm you. What is emerging through you will never harm you because it is simply a feature of life. Life does not harm itself. Life always is operating from a higher order of intelligence, which you may be conditioned to mistrust or to perceive as chaotic, but which is orderly as soon as you see it fully with panoramic awareness. When you saturate in that finite, strange experience, that unexpected experience, when you go in, when you turn towards, when you pursue your own longingness, when you expand into your own tension, when you go towards your own fear, that is when all of these things shift. They all alchemize. So it's awareness that does it. It's simply the truth that does it. You don't have to remove these sticky features from your life because the sticky features are simply misunderstandings of what life is. Shed the truth and the misunderstanding is revealed to have, it's not something that ever existed. We just treat it as if it does. And because we're trying to treat this fixed notion as if it's alive, because we're investing our actual alive force in a fixed idea, a concept which is not turning over with presence, when we're investing in this fixed structure which is not able to reperceive itself, when we're not shedding light on what that is, we're investing life into the creation of more of it. And when you simply perceive that that is something fixed and therefore it is not something turning over and therefore it is not something which is inherently alive, you realize, oh, okay, that's not from hatching, emerging, turning over, birth, life, death, cycle, update, freshness, energy. That's from intellectual fixation and misunderstanding, clinging energy. The only thing which is still, the only thing which is unchanging is the void, the witness, the ground of being from which all experiences arise. Anything within your experience, which is fixed, unchanging, is not alive, nor is it your true, empty, full, paradoxical, void nature. I'll repeat that again to clarify. Stillness is what you are. Within stillness, there is the movement, which is the way your being expresses the life process, the desire process, the fact that there's something happening, which is a miracle. So you are the still awareness, experiencing being and body, experiencing energy. Anything that does not turn over and shift and evolve within being, body, energy, life is a fixation and an illusion. There is one stillness, and that is you. Anything you look at that is genuinely fixed and still is not real, because for it to be real, for it to be alive, consequential and part of the dance of everything, it would have to be turning over. So when you invest in something that's not real, investing in delusion, you are essentially going against natural law. You're turning against the way life wants to express itself. Life cannot be stopped, and so life will direct itself in a way which is incongruent with the continuity of awareness in body. So death, essentially. Now, desire enables us to move and to turn over and to reperceive ourselves. The process of seeking brings with it change, the necessity to evolve and adapt. So it's all built in. In your desiring, there lives a process of unfolding and self-discovery which will help you reiterate, reperceive, and reform yourself. Desire helps you to turn the wheels and to turn over. If, while alive, you try to suppress your desires or exit from the desiring nature of life, then you are sticking a twig in the turning wheels, and you're not allowing yourself the experiences which would create further expansion of your being. Now, obviously, the endless, infinite aspect of you in awareness doesn't need expansion. It just expands things when you're aware of them. So at that level, there's nothing to fix. There's nothing to change. You're simply the witness. Witness your desires and they expand. The tension turns into this beautiful growth process. So let's return to the tree analogy. When a tree grows, it grows from the center. It grows down and up from the center. When we breathe from the center. Trees do not self-abandon for their desires. It is not in a tree's nature. It is not possible for a tree to grow without rooting down. It does not work. It is not what a tree is. It is not what a tree does. The tree grows from the center in order to reach something, and it does that because physically it would not be possible to go reach over there and to invest all of this energy and all of this growth and weight and substance in a direction without having something to counteract and counterbalance that, because it is in equilibrium. Now, the human being uses this same equilibrium process. In order to reach towards something, we must have a sense of the center from which we are reaching. And we are not made to self-abandon either. We are made to expand into our desires from our center to envelop that which we love, want more of, want to create, are interested in. We're not made to exchange our aliveness for something. If we exchange our aliveness, our seat, our center in order to achieve something, we will not be able to receive that thing into our aliveness and therefore fully experience it. But this is what some people seem to do, right? It seems that we seem to get trapped in this loop of pursuing something outside of ourselves, running on an experiential treadmill where we're not actually expanding, where we're trading in our aliveness for the thing that we want. And then when we go towards it, we look back and we don't know where we've come from and we don't know where we are, and there's no receivership. There's no sense of ever having. And so desire is therefore not expanding. Desire is not going to be able to keep turning over, because the one desiring, with the energy that fuels the desiring, with the aliveness that makes desire possible, that person, that one, is shrinking and falling apart, and so too does the desiring process, the living process. When we expand like a tree does towards that which we love, we grow in every direction at once, and so we can receive, we can hold, we can envelop, and we can experience the substance of our desire. So what does this mean for you? It means recognizing that desires exist within your field. It means recognizing that if there's something you want, it is because you have a sense of it already. If you didn't have the sense of what you wanted, you would not be able to want it. Okay, so there is a version of this thing you want which already exists within you. You may think, okay, I want a car, and obviously a car does not exist within me, but the representation of a car does. The feeling of sitting in a car does. The compass that lets you know what a car is, why it's good, and how you might feel when you drive it does exist within you, okay? So when you're expanding your desires, you're expanding the felt essence of the thing which you are hoping to materialize externally. Rather than focusing on car, just looking at it as an empty picture, you choose to feel into the essence of everything that it will bring, offer, and change about your life. And when you feel into that essence, you can see more clearly what the desire is. You've expanded and built upon and fleshed out and matured and cultivated your desire for a car internally. And now the thing that car will give you, practically speaking, and somatically speaking, like the feeling of having it, the reward of that, all of that is clearer. And because that's clearer, and because there's more space for that internally, the sense of longing or distance in space and in time and in experience is collapsed. And you and the car become more of a resonant match. And if the car was just a catalyst for a deeper understanding of your true desires, then your desire for the car will change once you explore what it is about that desire that you love so much. So all desires, all hints of interest, all hunches, all clues, all these things that we want to move towards, we should move towards them. And as we move towards them, we should expand them, grow into them, embrace and envelop them with our aliveness to help these desires express themselves and become known in the most beautiful possible way. Each desire begins as something pixelated, unclear, lower resolution, and each desire completes itself when it's reached terminal resolution, when it's so clear, so beautiful, so well understood that it has been pursued, recognized, received, embodied, and then the desire passes through its completion and falls away and dissolves back into oceanic everythingness. All things have this life cycle. All things have this life cycle. Everything that has a life cycle is a desire. Everything that happens because it is fulfilling a certain desire. That desire might be so deep, so profound, and coming from such an unknown place that you can't explain it. But for there to be anything, there is a desire. The world, Maya, all of this stuff, the matrix, mother, the womb, the thing that we're in, the thing that we're moving through, the external forms, all representations of desire. The space, the awareness which permeates this, well, that is Shiva. That is the radiant, luminous light which sees and is the movement, and they dance. Okay, so the one beholding, the one watching, and the thing watched, they're dancing. And really, it's one great unified mystery of everything and nothing combining. But we're experiencing a split. We're experiencing a subjectivity, subject-object split. And this is fucking miraculous. This is fucking miraculous. So the fact that you exist and can have a concept of self and that we can talk about life at all is because of desire. Desire comes from a sense of subject-object. Without that, there is no desire. All concepts, all knowing would completely cease. Anything you could possibly talk about and label would be completely dissolved and completed and turned over, and there would be nothing left other than whatever was left. But we're all somewhere along this process in subject and object, and some of us are working with more gross or bigger pixels, bigger rocks of desire. Like, okay, I want to lift 300 kilos and I want to earn 100K. Some of us are working with different forms of desire, like I want to have a farm and I want to do art. Some of us are working with, I want to understand mathematics and whatever it is. And whatever the journey, whatever the desiring journey, the pixels over time are going to become more refined, and what you receive from your desiring process is going to become more nuanced. And what you look for in your desiring process is going to slightly shift. And the corners and the little spaces of life which have not yet been expanded are going to be expanded by your unique allowing of your blueprint to just pursue those interests. You're going to find yourself in a corner of the cosmos. Well, you already are. You might not realize. You're in a corner of the cosmos which no other thing, being, or entity can possibly experience the way you're experiencing it. This is individuation, the realization of small self within big self. The realization that where you are is precisely where you must be in order to experience the conditions which define you. And within those conditions and the expansion of understanding of those conditions, within the expansion of your understanding of your limitations, within your embrace of the unfolding of what it is that you are, your personality, your body, your interests, your fears, when you go in and you expand those spaces, you are having an experience which cannot be experienced in any other way by anyone else ever. God, him or herself, or God itself, or the cosmos itself cannot experience the detail that you have access to without narrowing itself into what you are. The ocean wants to experience the little crest of the wave that you are crashing in this way, and so the desires that you have are a part of that experience. So, when you want to move towards your desires more quickly in a very practical way, like how do I actually grow my desires and move towards them quickly? How do I germinate the seed of desire within myself while also creating an external change in the world? Okay, well, the answer is like this. If there's something that you want to create in the world, then there is the infinite part of you, and then there's the finite part of you. The infinite part of you has access to everything already. The finite part of you is still discovering that. And between the infinite and finite part of you, there's a relationship. And the more harmonious the relationship between your finite, limited self and your infinite, unlimited self, the more quickly you can collapse the rules of time and space. To want something, to long for something, as we covered, is to sense that there is distance between it and you. to have this subject-object split, which feels very real and very material, and time and space are stretching that out, and there's distance. In practicality, what that means is that in your brain, in your neurology, there are these two things that aren't yet bridged. In the external world, external physical world, which we only ever experience through our neurology, that's the car that you don't have and you wanting to have that car. Now, as the neural pathways thicken and develop and become more robust internally, as your understanding of the desire expands, those 2 points, those 2 areas of potential realization begin to look for each other. And as they begin to connect, that is when we are meeting ourselves. That is when we are meeting ourselves through a desire and a new experience. When something that was object meets something that was subject, and there's a realization that both can experience each other. In you, that is the bridge of neural pathways. I wanted to do a backflip. I couldn't do a backflip. I had a sense of the backflip, but the physical manifestation wasn't possible because my neurology, my physiology was not yet robust. It wasn't developed enough. The pathway on the ethereal, imaginative layer was not yet thick, real, and dense enough to create a tangible, gross physical change. So we go through the process of learning. Visualize, visualize, visualize. What is a backflip? What isn't a backflip? What is a jump? What isn't a jump? How do I jump better? How do I jump higher? How do I jump while becoming more aware of my body in space? And as we do that, this idea of the backflip crystallizes, and this sense of ourselves in the body crystallizes, and they begin to meet, and eventually they do meet, and we can backflip, and at first it's terrible. And then 1,000 reps later, it's pretty good. We are now embodying the backflip. We are now embodying the desire. We have successfully expanded the desire to such a degree and to such a critical mass of energetic density that it has played out in the material world. At that point, the desire has completed its life cycle. And because it's completed its life cycle, how fucking incredible. The desire is gone. But everything that it represented is here and has become eternal and has become woven into the story of subject and object, to the story of your life unfolding, this finite human movie, fairy tale, myth within the infinite potential of everything that could have been. You've taken the morass, the mist of what if, and you've distilled that. By going into one potential and expanding it, you've actually reduced the all and the everything, and you've brought it into the place of presence and material, of matter, where things actually bloom and have aliveness. And so you've taken potential and you've given it the opportunity to become. And once potential becomes, potential is no longer. But from becoming, there is no need for that particular desire. Desire, the process, the desiring process, the cycling, the living process, which continues to unfold, now redirects. The backflip or the car was the catalyst, was a lily pad, was something for you to move into. And then it starts to write itself into a new word. The poem continues, the unfolding continues, and from a backflip, it's a backflip off a bridge. It's a backflip on a bike. It's a certain hunch that you should go to a certain workshop. It's the ability to imagine a more complex trick. It's to see the world in a new way. Now, all of these threads are desire exploring new pathways. life exploring new avenues towards realization in complexity. And when we describe it this way, how beautiful is it? How beautiful is it that your body's being and its limitation are going to converse with you in that process. You're going to experience fear. You're going to experience resistance. You're going to experience resentment, frustration, grief, sadness, joy. You're going to experience the whole spectrum of experience in the process of life unfolding towards its desires. Because what's happening with each of those experiences is you're revealing where life has not yet met itself, where awareness and infinite understanding has not yet met the finite. Fear is the X that marks the spot of future wisdom. Resentment, too, is just this wishing that things could be easier, could be different. And even to wish that is this beautiful, naive, yet absolutely necessary driver of further exploration. So when we experience all of these very gnarly emotions and we experience this sense of fragmentation, this sense of losing ourselves and whatnot, all that's happening is we're discovering portals towards higher understanding, towards a more direct, flowing relationship between infinite and finite. But we don't realize that we can step through these portals. Resentment is a portal, frustration is a portal, anger is a portal, rage is a portal, grief is a portal. All of these things are initiations into a dimension of understanding, which is so beautiful if you can only turn towards it and expand that. And so it's not just that life wants to experience different things. Life wants to experience different things in different ways. And life wants to experience different things through different avenues. It's not just linear, want this object, am this subject, straight line. We want to weave pictures and connect threads and build out all of these connection points so comprehensively that space and time and experience can fold in on itself. We, as composites of awareness and matter, are so curious and so incredibly beautiful that we want to fold time and space in on themselves so that we can find doorways to connection that we couldn't possibly have imagined. And we will do that by taking ourselves to the ends of the earth through God knows what process, through God knows what suffering, because we're so okay with it at the infinite level. And that infinite level, that infinite, compassionate, all-knowing, ever-present spaciousness has full faith. Like it's not, faith isn't even, it just is, with such profound isness that there is no fear there, because everything is already seen, contained, held, known fully. And it's just this aspect of us which is finding its way back to the infinite through even more dense, tricky, fragmented experiences. The denser you can go into the substance of human life, the mess, the embodiment, the realness, the rawness, the further you can go into that, the more you are, by your very nature as a sentient being, expanding that. When you expand it without worrying about ideas that it's wrong or that something might be mistaken, when you just don't worry about that, you let that pass too, the densest things start to turn over. And so from this frozen grey, lock and key finite experience. We begin to experience a version of the finite which dances, makes art, creates, and expresses. And each one of us within our bodies can become a walking example of this process, where we are so saturated with awareness and life and energy that at a cellular level we begin to hum and vibrate, and our electromagnetic field expands to a degree where simply by existing we invite other things in existence towards a higher level of coherence. Simply by existing we become amplifiers for life's desire for itself, and simply by existing with such a high level of release, surrender, and curiosity, a love of humanity, we help other people find the signature that unlocks their own humanity. Humanity is being unlocked all the time. Nothing can stop it. The finite already permeates everything. Your job is not to discover your finite nature. Your job is simply to make a thicker pathway between the infinite and the most finite. Your job is not to wake up from this whole game. Your job is to move deeper into the game in such a boldly creative way that no stone is left unturned, and you can build whatever you want to build if you're willing to go dense enough into feelings which you aren't used to, and expand and open and step through those portals. Step through the fear, step through the sensation, step in, turn towards. Nothing can hurt you. Nothing can hurt you in the process of turning towards. When you turn towards, the finite is meeting the infinite. This is the most beautiful, safe place you could possibly be, because this process of turning towards is what happens when you are with God and when God is with you. There is nothing safer than that, because there is nothing more harmonious, unified, connected, and liberating than turning towards yourself in the presence of a new experience. You that seems to be alone never walks alone. Your desires are beautiful, and the acceptance of your desires will help them transform into even more beautiful things. The only way to bypass this process would be to exit life, and you don't know what will happen if you do that. You don't know whether you actually can bypass that process. But there's no need to exit life to be free. Freedom comes when you realize that the constraint has nothing to do with your freedom. The constraint is simply something to explore, because it's there. Peace is not something you get afterwards. Peace is the thing which is exploring chaos. Intelligence is not something that you can build, learn, get. Intelligence is the thing that is building, learning, and getting. Who you are is not someone you must discover. Who you are is the thing that is discovering the conditions you're living in. You are always both, and that is the incredible magic. And at certain times you will feel more subject to your conditions. At certain times you will feel this like objectivity, which is actually not empty of beauty. It's more like you're able to be more at once. There's life in more things at once. There's an expanded sense of yourself. But this contraction and expansion is unfolding in a way which makes absolute sense, and you don't need to understand it. You are already where you hope to be. It's just that you haven't seen the story unfold. The aspect of you which is beyond time and space, the aspect of you which wants to experience life and desire, there's nothing to say about it. It is so ever present and so all permeating. But that doesn't mean that the story has been told yet. And so step through the story, embrace the character, embrace the narrative, embrace the persona. Anything that comes up, step into it, not away from it. There is nothing you can possibly experience which doesn't belong. Not a drop of rain falls in the wrong place. Anything that you experience only becomes wrong if you believe it to be so. And the belief that it is wrong doesn't actually make it wrong. It just makes it complicated for you. You can explore that. That's another condition. So, stance practice, meditation, breath practice, movement, ever more refined watchfulness of the body, ever more refined skill and capacity to move, creation, the process, the discipline, the skill, the nurturing of your talent, all of the emotions that come with that, the gong fu, the practice, it's all for you. It's a distillation of your person, your character. And in that, the infinite finds more ways into the finite. So all of that will expand your neurology. All of that will expand your perception of yourself, and all of that will also create more bridges between different experiences, which require less and less space and time to connect and process. So if you imagine that you just have this incredible intelligent web, that incredible intelligent web that's folding in on itself and that's just found its way into every nook of experience, you can communicate from one end of that to the other. Like it's almost instantaneous, right? So that's what's happening at the physical level when you remember your finite nature while you're interacting with conditions, with practice, with like sweat, with muscles burning, with I don't know how to do this maths problem, with I don't know how to express my emotions to my partner. The infinite part of you is in the finite, weaving connections into the finite to have a more interesting physical material world, to have a cooler matrix. So as you continue to just invest yourself in that practice process, that revelatory process, it doesn't really matter what you do. How you do it and who you perceive yourself to be while you're doing it are like equally as important. The point is just to keep the flow going. Find the flow, find the area of interest, trust the unfolding. It's all there for you. But as you build your body as well, as you build your neurology, you're going to download a different type of experience into your subject. You're going to have a different way of seeing the world, feeling the world, and you'll be able to speak about the world in a different way. And so everything that we're doing through attunement and through the physical practices and the subtle body practices, we're installing a particular way of experiencing the finite. And it's our own direction. It's not better, it's not worse. A musician has his own way, you know. A boat builder has his own way, but we're working with something quite direct in the sense that the body is obviously the vessel through which we build boats, learn music, do maths, all of it. So when you take care of the vessel, when you take care of the nucleus, then the things that come from that nucleus, the other skill sets, the other interests, can be pursued with more vigor and more aliveness and more freshness. So working with the body and building out our in touchness with the body and our ability to travel through sensations within the body and to turn this body into a particular type of equipment, that process is immensely rewarding and option opening for everything else. And when your very body, your body being is built out to that degree, there is such a high level of processing possible to you that you can maintain your childlike genius and learning capacity and suppleness and ability to change, shift, trust, connect for longer as you age. So you get all these experiences, you have all the wisdom, you've explored all of these doorways in life, but you maintain the openness rather than becoming restricted and becoming narrowed as quickly. Now, the more you expand your neurology, the more you find fulfillment quicker and create more powerfully, even if the biological timeline were to close, and even if the external options were to close. If this is the path and the path appears to be closing, you're going, oh, no, shit, closing. But you're expanding that density space of your life path at the same time as it appears or should be closing. And so by going deeply into whatever experience it is that you're having, you're essentially building the functional space and time and potential that didn't exist before you were there building it. It's like we're walking towards a destination and there's a bridge that we need to be able to get there. The bridge is not yet built, and so we look at that destination, we look at the chasm in the middle, and we think, oh fuck, I'm gonna fall into the chasm. No! But as we get closer, we start to realize, oh, well, but my whole purpose is to cross that chasm in whatever way, or to experience that chasm. That's my whole purpose. And in stepping into that purpose, we create something from the chasm, or we essentially build the neurological bridge as we're crossing it. And that is every moment of fear or faith in life. It's the knowing that there is something waiting on the other side, which you will only realize is you once you've crossed the chasm. But before, it's going to seem like something else, someone else. It's going to seem very foreign. You're not going to know what it is, who it is, how it is. But with faith, which is simply the cessation of interest in hurting yourself, the cessation of interest in delusion. Faith is just to be open to the unfolding. That's all it is. It's just to accept that life's going to do what life does, and just to embrace that. With that faith, you then have more space to do the work and to build the bridge. So it's self-fulfilling. We can expand the spaces that feel contracted. And as we do, we expand the potential and the functionality within those spaces. Just like a shoulder joint can be contracted and stuck. Awareness, energy, intention, we rebuild, we make the joint more supple, we work on the tissues, the blood flow, the lymph, the nerves, the neurological space within the shoulder, the brain's map of the shoulder, the potential the shoulder has to communicate with the elbow, the wrist, the fingertips, and the spine, spinal cord, all of that, we expand. And so the shoulder goes from this locked, fearful existence, this dense, fragmented existence, towards a more robust, expansive, and spacious existence where it's less bound. So that same process of the building of the bridges and the expansion of space where there appears to be restriction occurs on every plane: the emotional, the psychological. We're just working with different layers of density. So the physical is very dense. It's very, there's a lot of charge and repetition and focus and penetration required for things to physically manifest. But on the level of the emotion, it's all moving much more quickly and it's more subtle, but the same principles are applying. And on the levels of the, let's call it arcane or the psychological or spiritual planes, the levels where we're really drawing something from the finite, from the infinite, and it's coming through like we're a channel for music, for art, for speaking. The same principles apply. Awareness, surrender, release, exploration, following of what feels good. It's just like exploring a shoulder. It's just like massaging the layers of tissue in the shoulder, except we're massaging the layers of perception and reality. And when we rub one and we rub another and we move one and we move another, oh, what's that? How does that feel? Oh, what just opened up when I did that? When I moved my scapula this way, what motion became available? Oh, when I moved into that emotion with this feeling and intent, what became available within that emotion? Oh, when I moved into that creative idea with this particular way of looking, what did it turn into? When I spoke those words and I softened and emptied myself and forgot that I was the one speaking, what came through me in the absence of that fixation? In the absence of the distortion and the resistance and the doubt? What is the most faithful, open, receptive, aware, attuned, harmonious way of being? So that's a video on desire. As a simple exercise to leave you with, since you've watched this long, I want you to explore the felt sense of desire. I want you to start in your groin, like root chakra maybe. You could call it like butthole or genitals. I want you to feel into what is the essence of desire or longing as you feel it in that part of your body. So close your eyes and do that. Do it for a few minutes. Then explore what's the felt essence of desire a little bit higher up, right? Like sacral, bladder, stuff like that. That area. If you think desire, what is desire? And you feel through that part of your body, what things are you drawn to? What's the feeling? What's the desire? Move up. Solar plexus. When you feel through your solar plexus, what is desire and what is it that you desire? What kind of things do you desire through your solar plexus? Move up to your heart. Do the same thing. What kind of things do I desire when I'm feeling into my heart? What do I take desire to mean? What's it about? What's the point of it when I feel into my heart? Move up again, the throat. What is the throat's desire? What is the throat's desire? What does desire mean here? What does desire mean here? How does it feel to desire from here? What am I noticing externally when my internal reference, my filter, is here? I'm seeing through here as opposed to seeing through here, as opposed to seeing through my dick. What about here? Crown, or even just above? How do I relate to desire from there? And you could do this with desire, you could do it with time. Let's not get too complicated, but any concept, you can feel through it from these various points in your body. It's not about the 7 chakras. It's just that we're using particular felt reference points where there's a density of nerves and tissue and aliveness, and we're feeling through a concept from those points to better understand what it is that we're looking at. And then you have a reference point for your desires as you go about the world. So when you desire something, where am I desiring it from? What aspect of me, what part of me is desiring it? And what desires light up all of it? Because fuck, that's pretty cool, right? Imagine if your whole body was desiring simultaneously, and all of these aspects of desire were nested within and dancing with one another. Ethereal, creative, whoa! Third eye, heart, loins, groin, solar plexus, all of what does it feel like to desire with all of my being, to let all aspects of my being turn over in unison? What kind of body would that be? How would I walk around in that body? How can I build that body? What kind of world would I experience and therefore be able to see, and therefore be able to recognize, pay attention to, appreciate, and build more of? Much fucking love.